This is Dana Samuelson with the American Gold Exchange. You're listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast with Mike Cavagioni.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below. Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavagioni, and today's guest is Adi Klevit. So Adi, I'm super excited to have you on, especially with looking into your background and the short conversation we had before recording. I think this is going to be a really great episode for our listeners. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let's kick this off the same way we start every podcast episode. And me and my listeners would like to know more about you. So if you could, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your story? Who is Adi Klevit?
All right. My background is industrial engineering. That's how I got into process documentation, process improvement. I worked at different companies as an executive. I ran teams. I also had 2 businesses of my own. And in 2011, decided to create a full-time, basically move full-time to running my own business. And I started with doing what I know how to do best, which is strategize and help businesses with strategy and help with their business. And pretty soon I realized that there is a lot of need for process documentation, because I would tell my clients that they need to document. And they would not do it. It would be week after week. You got to document. You got to document. Yeah, but I don't have time. I don't know how, etc. So then I go, okay, that's a need. So what I did is I asked, how about if I do it for you? If I document it for you? And they go, really? You can do that? I said, yeah. Okay, good. So that's where it started. And I found that niche. And from there, it grew to the company that we are today, where we help people document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think a lot of times when somebody starts a business, or even if you're established in a corporate position, in a leadership position, right? A lot of times those are the things you might not think about, right? What are some of the systems and processes you need to have in place to make it work? Or what do you have in place to make it work that maybe not everybody knows how to follow? And then how do you get them there? So that's actually something exactly I'm curious about, right? So for, let's say for a business that maybe they're established, right? And they've got they're set in their ways, right? They've got their systems and their processes, but when they onboard new people, it is so hard to get them into that process. Why? Because they don't have it documented. So how do you walk somebody through something like that, like a business owner?
You're absolutely right. You got to have it documented, because otherwise, how are you going to walk somebody through, or how are you going to do the onboarding? But the first thing that we start with is the why. Like, why do you want to have those processes documented? Because as a business owner, I mean, for our listeners right now, you're business owners. Do you have processes documented? If you don't, all right, it's time to document. Answer this question, like, why do you want to have your processes documented? And not because you read it in a business book. That's fine, because it can help you think with it. But what is your real why? Is it because you want to gain more freedom? You want to get out of the business? It might be that you have somebody in your business that you need to do a knowledge transfer because you are afraid that if they are going to leave, what will happen? Is it because you want more consistency? Is it risk mitigation? It might be that you feel that you want to do things more efficiently and drive profitability. Things are not being done as effective as they can be. You want to make sure that your customers, your clients are getting the same results every single time. So you really have to look at it and define for yourself, why do you want to document?
Yeah, that is a great question. And that's the ultimate question, I think, that you ask in anything that you do is, why are you doing that way? Why do you need this? And I know for me, so like I had a career in the military, retired from that, And one of the things that we always did that made us efficient at whatever we were doing is we had these things called SOPs, right? These standard operating procedures. And that is something I've carried over with me into my business life, with my side businesses and everything. Like every process that my VA does, like I have it documented on how to do it step by step. So that in a worst case scenario, and I know they're listening to this because they're editing this show, don't worry, you guys are fine. But if I ever had to get rid of them or if they decided to leave, I have that already in place where I could pass that on to the next person that I bring in.
That's
And
exactly
it
right.
can make it a little bit more seamless, make that transition seamless. So if I have to onboard future editors and things like that, it's easier. So I
It
think
really
that's
is.
super important.
Absolutely. It's very important and it really is easier. And yeah, I agree.
So what would you say is a good way to actually document your process no matter what it is? Like for me with podcast editing, so I did a step-by-step drawn out the process for them. Like how would you recommend to someone like me, let's say, because I also have a podcast editing business, how would you tell me I should put a system in place that's going to make it easier to onboard people?
Well, you're doing the right thing. So I would say, Mike, what area, because you're probably going to ask me, where do I start? You go, Adi, where do I start?
Yes.
So Mike, let's do this exercise right now. So Mike,
Okay.
what area of your business, if you had well-documented processes and procedures, will get you the biggest return on investment? And let's define return on investment. Return on investment, whatever it means for you. Maybe it's more time, more profitability, but it can also be whatever, however you want to. One of my clients named it return on freedom, right? So it's return
Yes,
on investment,
I like that.
return on freedom. So ROI, like what area of your business, if you right now had documented processes and procedures, will get you that biggest return of freedom?
For me, I would say marketing.
Okay, good. So then I will go, all right, so marketing, what's happening in marketing? I would find out why you haven't documented marketing so far. We'll dig into that. And then I would ask you, okay, what is stopping you from documenting? I really want to understand, what is it? Is it time? Is it lack of know-how? Is it there are more important things that you are going to go through, that you are handling right now, that it's not, it seems that it's a lesser priority. So we'll understand why it's stopping you so I can help you with that.
Yeah. So like for me,
Yeah.
an example would be that it is a lack of time and I guess where it falls into my priorities with other things that I'm doing. So those would be the two things I think that really stand out to me the most when it comes to that piece with getting it documented.
Good. Why did you choose marketing?
Because I feel like I'm really lacking there or slacking there, I guess you could say. And that my actual podcast editing business, I think could be thriving a lot better than it is if I actually really put the time into marketing it and getting it out there and for more eyes to see.
Absolutely. So having documented processes in that area, how would you actually, and implemented and followed by everyone, how would that make a difference? Describe to me, like, how would it actually make a difference?
I think having some type of process in place for my team to actually market the business would one, make it more hands off for me, which is going to give me my time back. And two, I don't have to really worry too much about where it falls in my priority list because I've now outsourced it to someone else on my team to do that. So that's why I think at least if I documented that process on how I would do it, or find somebody that probably knows how to do it better than me and have them help me outline what that process should look like.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's say we help you with that. We help you document those processes, or I teach you how to do it and you do it. At the end of the project, what would need to happen for you to know that was a worthwhile project?
The return on investment, right? So if what I put into it gets me the client base that's going to make up the time and money that I spent to get there, that to me would be proof of success.
Absolutely. So at this point, if you want to go into it, we can, but at this point I will dig farther because it's the right answer. It's a good answer, but it's general. I'd like to know specifics. So then I would ask, okay, so how many clients do you have right now? If we write and create marketing processes for you, what will be a success? It's an increase of 25%, 50%, because
Right.
it's very important for me to know where we are going, what's the goal, so I can lead you towards that goal.
Yeah.
And
So you need to have some type of metrics to
Yeah.
have as a goal. Know
Because
where
we
you're
have to
at
make
right now.
sure.
Yeah. So you know where you're going.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
Awesome.
right. We set up the metrics right there in terms of some clients say, there are a lot of callbacks. Like I said, they are in the trades, they are a plumber or a masonry business. So whatever it is, and they go, we have callbacks. We build a chimney and then we're being called back. That's costing us a lot of money. We want to reduce the errors to zero. Okay, good. It's a process. Let's build the process so it's there. Now, obviously, it is always, you have the processes, you have the people, you have the tools, the technology, you have all of that. But we are looking at it from the process viewpoint, but we also account for the rest. So we'll take it all into account. So that's what I would ask at this point is like, we're really going to dig in, like, why lack of processes doesn't let you get to the metrics that you want to get to. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
then let's say we establish that.
So actually, I want to dive into something that's with that, right? Because it was something else that I brought up in there in that process. And I know just by going on your website and looking at some of the things that you talk about, you know how I talked about outsourcing a little bit, but I feel like a lot of times where a lot of people struggle, and sometimes I struggle here too, because it's very hard to give up ownership of something, but it's about delegation, right? And giving those responsibilities to somebody who would probably be a better fit to do that, or giving up the responsibility for something that maybe you don't want to do because it's either too tedious or too time consuming. So how do you go about, when you're working with clients, helping them find the right way to delegate based off of the needs of what, however they're trying to grow?
Okay, good. That's a good question. Like we're segueing from how to write a process, but I think it ties in because once you so let's take your marketing department for
Well, I think that almost has to come first, right? You have to make that decision that you want to delegate.
You have to make the decision. That's right. So that's part of your why. I agree 100%. You have to make the decision.
Yeah.
But the how to delegate, you do have to have. So let's say we take the marketing example. So we decided we're going to document the marketing department. We understood why. You understand, okay, now I can be driven to do that because I get what the result is going to be. Then we go, okay, so what are the functions in the marketing department? We're going to process map it. So you have this and that. Okay, good. So maybe you have online marketing, you have offline, you have reaching out to referral partners, asking for referrals, whatever it is, you have the different aspects of marketing. Then we'll go, okay, who is in charge right now of each one of those functions? And then if we're talking to an owner that it's not delegate, it hasn't been delegated yet, or for the owner of the process that hasn't been delegated, we'll figure out, okay, what parts can we delegate? What are the roles and responsibilities that we need to give? What are the functions that a person has to have in order for it to be successful? And we'll go over that with you. And then we'll decide what are the things that you have to hold, and then maybe hire somebody and train them. What are the things that right now you can delegate to somebody that maybe can do it better than you can? And what are the responsibilities for that person? Maybe you have somebody on your team and will help delegate, but we first of all have to map the process. We have to document it. So then we can actually hand out the process itself. We go, okay, step 1, 2, and 3 here, Mike, we can give it to somebody else. Then it comes back to you to do step number 4. And from there, we're going to take it and do step 5 and 6.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that. So there was something you mentioned earlier there, Adi, about process mapping, right? And off the top of my head, I'm thinking that's how you get to where you're going to kind of lay out the plan, right? For how you're going to build that process and document it. So can you talk me through that, right? So we know we've made that decision.
Let's talk about your marketing. What are the different, let's talk about your marketing. So what are the different functions in your marketing department that you feel you want to document?
Social media, obviously social media presence, like posting, ad space, like what's the right time or the right market to put ads out, or how much do we want to spend on ads? Do we want to spend on ads? Do we want to focus on social media growth? So I think those are the kind of questions that I think I need to ask myself, maybe put up on a whiteboard and just map it out.
That's exactly right. So I'm
Yeah.
sure there are other areas in marketing other than social media, but let's concentrate on this social media area.
Sure.
So I would put a sticky note and say social media. Then take a sticky note and write each one of the questions you just posed, and you put them under social media and put them in sequence of, in order to get a social media post out and for it to be effective, what is the sequence of questions you have to ask in order to get those answers?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely other ways to like email marketing, you know, if you
Correct.
want to
So
do
you do it
cold
for each
calls. I don't
one,
know if I
but
want to do that, but you know.
exactly. But each one of them is mapped. You write on a sticky board.
For
You know,
each one of those.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how you map. Don't make it too complex. Don't get into different methodologies. You can if you want to, and if the business is complex, absolutely. But just keep it simple.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think about like how I do Scrum and stuff. At my W-2, we use the Scrum method in certain areas when we're trying to put different processes in place. And it's a very interesting way. And we use a lot of stickies, right? So that it automatically made me think about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you have to think a certain way, right? If you're going to get into putting the right systems and processes in place in your business, right? So I want to ask you, like, what kind of mindset do you think somebody should be looking at their business with? Or what kind of mindset do you need to have when you're going to put processes in place, document it, and figure out how you want to delegate? What kind of mindset do you need for that?
That's an excellent question. And I actually have a whole workshop that I do. It's called the Process-Driven Leader. And it talks about the mindset that you have to have. So the first thing that you have to have is you have to have the mindset that you need processes. Because many times what I encounter is that mindset is prevalent in terms of, oh, I'm the visionary, I don't need processes. It's okay. It takes away my creativity, or I don't want to block people from doing what they're doing, don't want to micromanage. So the first thing that we do is we basically bust those myths, because those are myths and they're not based on reality. The most successful founders are the ones that are process driven. It doesn't mean the pendulum will swing the other way and everything is to be very corporate and process oriented. But if you don't have the processes, if things are not oriented around processes, you can just create chaos. And you mentioned, Mike, the word SOP. So SOP, the first word there is standard operating procedure. So you have a standard, meaning what is standard? Standard is a certain level. That is the acceptable level of the quality that things should be done. If you don't define them, you're not going to have standards and everyone can just do. You're relying on people that can come and go. You're relying on the idea of what somebody has as a standard. So that can be dangerous. So as a leader, you have to have the mindset that, yes, I do want processes. You also should have the mindset of, I want to help my people. I want to make sure that it's clear, my communication is clear and the expectations are set. And that's how you achieve it, by processes. Then you have to have a mindset of accountability, that, it's okay to hold people accountable and make sure that they actually produce what they are supposed to be producing. It has to be a mindset of clarity and mindset of transparency, meaning now you're going to be held accountable as well to follow your own processes. So you have to be transparent that you are actually following it and doing it. So there are different aspects of it, but it's a mindset that, yes, this is going to work and I do want to implement processes because it's going to take my organization to the next level.
Yeah, no, I love that. So some of the things I wrote down as you were talking about that is you have to be open to the process, right? It's not just something that you just one day say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it, and you're not sold on it, right? And you had mentioned too about if somebody is a visionary and in their head, they're just like, I just want to be the one that's coming up with ideas, right? So I'm the visionary and I can't really do anything else. It's very hard for me to systematize and put this stuff into a process. Maybe somebody like that, like if they really can't get over it, if you can't bust that myth for them, maybe that's the kind of person that needs to partner with somebody that is process oriented, right? That takes that kind of leadership, right? Because I feel like it is for some people, it is very hard to be both, right? It's very hard to be the visionary.
Oh yeah, and they don't
and
need
the person
to.
running the business.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. They don't need to. They just have the mindset. It's a mindset shift. And then you either have somebody who's the second in command or a VP of operations. That's where we come in. It's like an outsource, trusted advisors that can help document. Absolutely. But in terms of mindset, I guess it's an open mindset of, yes, maybe I am not process driven, but I can be and I want to be. It doesn't mean that you have to sit down as the visionary and document everything. Utilize your people. And that's what we do. When we come in and do those projects, we work with the subject matter experts. We do not necessarily work with the founders.
Okay.
But as a founder, you have to have the mindset that you want to be involved and you want to support it and back it up. And you have to also discipline yourself that if somebody comes in and to your office and ask you, how do I do this or how do I do that? Instead of answering them, say, what does our process say? Let's go to our software and see do we have a process about it? Oh, we do. Let's read it. What does it say? Then after you read it, if you still need coaching, let's talk. But let's first of all review the process. So you are getting into the discipline of not answering questions when you shouldn't.
I think that's powerful right there, especially the way that you just put that too, because you should go back to what that standard process is, right? And if there is still questions or they still need coaching after that, maybe that opens it up to you saying, hey, maybe I need to relook at how I have this standard, this SOP, the standard operating procedure. Maybe it's not written in a way that's easily understandable, or maybe I need to change some of the way that it's written, some of the process, because it might be confusing. And that's something that you can realize after you've had somebody go through and read your process, right? Read your documentation, and then you can get a better understanding of that. So actually, that's something I want to ask you too is, so Adi, if somebody, let's say you put this process in place and the person that you brought on board, they're just not getting it. Like, how do you go about, one, coaching them through that, and two, like finding the right way to revise that process that makes it easier to digest?
Right. So we have to dig in why they're not getting it, and maybe show me how you do it and follow through and see what is lacking. We have to make sure we use all the methods of learning. So they have to be like a video, they have to be screenshots, they have to be explanation. So there are different ways. You just have to dig in there and find out, is it the process itself? Is it the person just doesn't have the right training? We really need to look into what's happening there.
Yeah, are they more of a visual learner, or do they need to see video, or are they somebody that it would be better if they read it? Because I feel like there's so many different ways to go about delivering your process. It could be through instructional video. It could be through like what you were just talking about. Actually, one of the things I do with my team is I have a document that has screenshots on like the step-by-step process on how we do certain things on the back end of our editing site, just so it shows them how to do it. And I feel like that was a pretty easy process, but some people might need me to do a video of a verbal walkthrough so they can actually watch it in play. Because when you're looking at screenshots, it's a lot different than like the real-time action of it happening.
I agree. It just happened to be one of my team members. She said, yeah, this is what I'm following. And she showed me an example of a procedure. And I go, you know what? I want you to record a video on how you're actually doing it and annotate on top of it, explain what you're doing. So then I can see what you're doing and I can take it from there.
Yeah. No, 100%. No, I love that. I love that. So now let's say you have a business that they're coming to see you. They have absolutely no systems in place, and they come to you and they're like, Adi, we are so overwhelmed. We can't figure this out. We don't even know where to start. Help. What do you say to somebody like that?
I said, okay.
They have nothing.
They have nothing.
Nothing in place.
But is it a business that is already going or they're starting? Where are they?
Let's say they're already going and they're like,
I will ask the
completely
same question
overwhelmed and freaking out.
So it's like peeling the onion. It's like, I will ask them the question I asked you. What area, what's the low hanging fruit? Like, where are we starting here? What is causing you the most pain? Or what causing you not to sleep at night? Oh,
everything.
If the Joe leaves tomorrow, then I will really be in trouble. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, if they say everything, but we'll have to have a conversation because you start one step at a time. We'll have to define one thing, handle that, and go to the next.
Adi, tell me why that's important. Tell me why it's important to have processes in place and have these systems all outlined in a business.
I think the why is for the business owner to find for themselves, because they know. Every time I ask that question, people know. I never have to tell them, because it is either consistency, increasing the value of the business, you want to exit, risk mitigation, all of those things that we went at the beginning of the podcast. But you have to find your own why. It cannot be all of it. Like for you, what is it?
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely appreciate that. So I feel like there's a lot of takeaways here as to, or that explain the importance of why you need to have these systems and processes in place. And I feel some of the things that you might not even think about when it comes to like process documentation is what is your actual mindset on that, right? And maybe you're actually blocking yourself. And this is something you need to step back and take a look at and say, okay, ask yourself those questions, right? And then reach out to Adi and say, hey, I need help, and here's why. So I think things like that, it's not something you think about every day. As a business owner, I think this works for real estate investors too. So for my listeners that are real estate investors, absolutely having those processes in place. I remember there was deals that I got into that I did not have a process in place, and I felt the pain from that. So actually, that's something I want to ask you too. Have you ever dealt with any real estate investors or anything like that coming to you?
Absolutely, yeah.
For process
We've
for
done
their
with property
business
managers, with realtors, and also real estate investors, and we did the whole flow of the real estate investment in terms of, especially, yeah, we did everything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, all right, Adi. So I'd like to take this now and transition to something that I call the final round. It's
Okay.
where I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions I ask everybody that comes on the show. It gives us a good idea of how you are under a little bit of pressure. Nothing crazy. We just go from there. If you're ready to go.
Yes.
Okay, you're ready. Here we go. First question of the final round for you, Adi, is what's the biggest mistake you've ever made when it comes to your finance or business life?
I didn't delegate fast enough. I thought I can do it all, and I did not hire fast enough, because after I did, I realized that it is absolutely the key thing to do.
Yeah. I feel like I feel that answer spiritually too, because for the longest time when I started my podcast, I was doing everything myself. I waited a while before I decided to delegate some stuff out. And I was like, wow, it's nice to have all this time back and not be sitting here editing and doing all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's huge.
Huge.
Next question, and this kind of ties into the first. What is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first started out?
That it's all going to be okay and it's going to turn out fine at the end. Because like when you start out, you have all these trepidations and anxieties and fears and can I do it? Can I not do it? And the advice would be just relax. It's going to be fine. Just learn from the mistakes, overcome the barriers, and it's all going to be just fine.
I love that. I think that's super important too, because you could sit here and do this all day and do this stuff every day, all day, and stress yourself out. I like that positive outlook of, hey, everything's going to be okay. You put the systems and processes in place, it's going to be okay. I think that's
Absolutely.
huge. All right. So next question for you. And again, these all kind of tie into each other. Do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that is just getting started today, whether it's starting a business or real estate investing, anything like that?
Find your why. Why are you doing what you're doing, and stick to it? Write it somewhere, write your goal, write your why, and continue with that. Don't let that dampen or be less, but just really figure out, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? I'm doing it to help people. Great, continue. Because there will be obstacles along the way. People might put you down. You might get discouraged. Okay, so what? So somebody said something. Continue and carry on.
Yeah, I love that. Find your why. That is super important. And it's a question you have to ask yourself, I think, for almost anything in life, no matter what you're doing. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Right?
And if you don't know, then don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
For you. So I have the final question of the final round, and I will preface this with, besides your own, because I know you have one, but do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast or both?
Yeah, I think the 10X by Grant Cardone is an awesome book. But success is our duty, our responsibility. He talks there about taking massive amount of action, and that is very important. And of course, he has all of his courses about real estate investment, which I think are really good. But the 10X book is really a really fundamental, really good book.
Okay, awesome, 100%. All right, Adi, that is it for the final round. However, I do have a couple more questions for you. And this next question I'm going to ask you is probably the most important question on this podcast, because you gave us a lot of golden nuggets and some really great wisdom, especially on how to put systems and processes in place, right? So for my listeners that want to learn more about that and want to learn more about you, where can people find more information about you? Do you have a website you could share with us, or social media, anything like that? And I know you have a podcast as well. Where can we listen to that? And what's the name?
Okay, so the name of the podcast is the Systems Simplified Podcast. And you can find it anywhere on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find a podcast, there in YouTube. So the Systems Simplified Podcast. Then you can find me on social media, on LinkedIn. I'm very active. So it's Adi Klevit, Adiklevit. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Adi Klevit on LinkedIn. Connect with me and follow. And our website is bizsuccesscg.com. So B-I-Z, success spelled out, CG for consulting group. So bizsuccesscg.com. And I have a lot of articles and blogs, and also a link to our podcast. So a lot of resources. And then the resources, we also have our Process Guru AI, which you can actually, it's an AI tool, custom made, that can help you answer any questions about process documentation. So give it a try. I think you like it. And also you can also call or text at 503-662-2911.
Okay, right on. I'm going to make it easy for all of our listeners. We're going to have those links in the show notes, but you all know the drill. If you're driving right now, please don't try to click those or open them now. Wait till you're in a safe place. So Adi, I have one more question for you, and that is to close things out. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners today?
Yeah. It might seem daunting or overwhelming to document your processes. Just start somewhere. Just ask yourself, which process can I do today that will actually make my life simpler and better, and start with that.
Okay, right on. I think that's a great question to ask yourself. So for my listeners, you got it. You know where to find her stuff. Again, if you're driving, don't do it. But Adi, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to join me and our listeners on the show and sharing a really great subject with us, especially for those that have been listening to this show for years, that have started a business and now are stuck in this spot where they're getting frustrated because they don't have systems or processes in place. I think this was a great episode for them. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you for having me. You're very welcome. And thank you for having me. Great interview and great conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And hey, I also want to thank every single one of our listeners for joining me and our special guest, Adi Klevit, on the Average Joe Finances podcast. Go leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you liked about today's episode with Adi. Aloha from Hawaii, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.